legislation, we're now looking to the state government for the way to see how council sets its price for water. For most Townsville residents I speak to, there is confusion and disgust, but most are resigned to the fact, most are resigned to the fact that they are stuck paying an extra 20% on their water and wastewater when they can ill afford it. It's not just pensioners who are struggling, but self-funded retirees, single income families, and others that could be described as the working poor. People are really hurting out there in our community, and all we seem to be doing is holding the line that there is nothing this council can do until we receive a response to a letter, which by the way still is yet to be tabled at a council meeting, from a federal agency. It's utter rubbish. Well, councillors, we now have a chance to bring some relief to residents and a chance to ensure that technically we still comply with the principles of national competition policy until changes can be made to the water pricing and the budget adjusted accordingly. I'm asking for support to provide a $100 rebate back to the ratepayers of this city to provide some relief at Christmas for the vast majority of Townsville residents who are doing it tough. And it doesn't conflict with national competition policy when we can begin the process today at Council's meeting. Instead of waiting for the next budget to give some relief to ratepayers and hope that by presenting a soft budget to them they will forget about the pain inflicted on them in the past 3 years, we can do something now and we can show some compassion to our residents now. Our residents are like shareholders of any company, and they deserve a share of the profits that water and wastewater produce. I wish to move that this council instruct staff to report to the next council meeting in December 2010 on amendments to the budget to provide all ratepayers with a $100 rebate on their utility charge.
Thank you, Councillor Hill, and thank you very much for reminding us that we inherited this train wreck. I don't really want to say too much about the issues that have been canvassed in relation to the need for council to undertake its system of charging, but I know you, along with everyone else, in fact saw the letter from the local government minister at the time that in order for us to claim $33 million in subsidies, we had to subscribe to a method of charging through water that complied with national water principles. I'll ask if there's a seconder for that motion. Okay, motion passes for 1 second. Okay, we move then on to item 10 of the agenda.
Mr Mayor, please.
Oh, sorry, is there any further general business? Sorry, Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and just following on from my comments last week, I see you need to do full and comprehensive review of our water licence structure as you've already alluded to, and that needs to happen. Before we go making decisions on the run and making immediate reactions to this, we need to make sure that we conduct that review in its entirety so that we look at billing periods, discounts and service fees. We look at the price per kilometre of water, and more importantly, we look at the ramifications of going back to the old water pricing structure. I'll come to that in a minute because I have a question for the water director. But that review needs to be comprehensive, and we need to look at all aspects of our water pricing structure before we go making any decisions. Certainly I'd like to see that review happen sooner rather than later. On the old water pricing structure, we know and heard from the water director that the productivity commission inquiry into water is taking place. I believe Ken's been asked to give evidence of the inquiry, and there are ramifications for this council in terms of going back to the old water pricing scheme. I can't think you and Doug to just elaborate on that because I think it's important that everyone in this room understands the ramifications of what that might mean for this council.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There is a productivity commission inquiry into the urban water sector being conducted at the moment. The terms of reference for the productivity commission inquiry cover water pricing and also institutional arrangements. The peak body of for the water industry, the Water Services Association of Australia, have made a submission to the productivity commission inquiry, and as part of that submission, they highlighted Townsville City Council agreement signed between the state and federal government, and that the council is now considering going back to the old methodology. That's of concern to the federal government's concern to the water industry around the nation. So that's been put to the Productivity Commission inquiry, and I've been asked to, on the 2nd of December, to go and give evidence in relation to that. The outcomes of the Productivity Commission inquiry would be broad and far-reaching. We'll certainly make recommendations into the perceived lack of commitment between state governments to implementing the national competition policy water reforms. As a result of that, it's likely the recommendations will be made which will be considered by the federal government. I don't know what those recommendations may be. There's suggestions that water pricing around Australia hasn't been effective because lack of regulation, pricing regulation, and inconsistent methodologies in terms of setting prices. One of the suggestions that has been put forward is that rather than local authorities having the power to determine prices, that there be a national regulator, so that if there's national standards, which there are, and our prices, the methodology we use have been calculated in accordance with those national standards. If there's national standards, the argument is, well, to remove the politics from price setting, that there be one national regulator. So there's likely to be a recommendation on that. There's certainly likely to be a recommendation in terms of the obligating, making it mandatory for water businesses, whether they be owned by councils, whether they be run by councils, to comply with the national standards for water pricing. So there's likely to be a scenario in March next year, the draft report comes out. The likely scenario is that there'll be recommendations in terms of price setting and also pricing regulation. That report will come out in March, and that will be considered by local governments and the industry generally, and a final recommendation will be made in July next year.
Thank you, Samantha. In terms of what Ken Dean just told us, I think it's vitally important that if we make any changes